How you doing? Yeah, that feels good, right? The top 3 reasons not to go to law school. Number 1, because you haven't figured out what your dream is or what to do with the rest of your life. Number 2, to make your Asian parents happy. Number 3, to avoid getting married because you're a lesbian. I did all 3. Okay, so I was raised in a fairly conservative South Asian Muslim household, and of course, marriage was drilled into me as the ultimate life goal. Anyone relate? Whoa, okay, whoops, great. Right, oh, what are some other goals that we have, right? Our family tells us virginity, the greatest edible arrangement you can give your husband, and baby making, our provider duty as women. So now, my wonderful Asian father, however, as much as he wanted me to be married, he also wanted me to get an education. So when it came time to decide what to do with my life after I got my English poli-sci degree, I decided to take the LSAT. So in other words, I opted to go to law school instead of being set up via Asian Tinder, which y'all know what Asian Tinder is, right? My parents, some guy's parents, chais, samosas in our living room, and one of those guys is gonna be Mr. Right. You know the drill, yeah. So I moved to Chicago for law school. I attended Chicago-Kent College of Law. It's now Harvard, but it's great. So I spent the first year illegally downloading music. I went to raves. There were raves then. I spent tax class learning how to flip a pen between my fingers, and in true Asian fashion, I started a South Asian Law Students Association. The acronym for that is SALSA. To make money, I sold samosas, mango lassi, even did a henna party in the lobby. Now, it wasn't until I took a class in law school in my 3rd year called trial advocacy. Now, that is when I finally fell in love. My professor, not that I fell in love with my professor, I fell in love with the class. Right. My professor told me I was good and I should try out for the team. So I did, I made the team, and I competed against other law schools in these trial competitions. Now, these trial competitions, they're basically the kind of thing that you see on TV that being a lawyer is about, like the sexy stuff, the dramatic monologues, the opening and closing arguments. That's not really how lawyering is, but that's the sexy stuff, and that's what I liked. So it reminded me of like being in high school, of performing in plays and playing the French horn in band and doing original oratory on the speech team, of how much I adored comedy and theater. Now that is when I was reminded of this dream that I had that I totally thought was not possible, which was a dream of being an artist. That law school's class prompted me to take my first acting class in Chicago. And of course, I loved it. And of course, I wanted to pursue this as a career. But having graduated law school, I was in debt because of law school. I had no money and I had to get a job. My most marketable skill? Being a lawyer. You're like, damn it. I know, this is not how we want that story to go. But I did. I had to get a job. Jobs. I had to get a job. I got a job at a downtown law firm. I was a civil defense litigator. But I still wanted to pursue that dream of being an artist. But how? Well, one of the number 1 things that I learned in law school was how not to be afraid of information that you did not have. So what did I do? I started lawyering by day and learning how to be an artist at night. I read books and plays. I took improv classes at I.O. I asked everyone questions. I did my first play, which was as Cobweb in A Midsummer Night's Dream. I was good. Now, did I tell my parents any of this? No, of course not. I'm not crazy. But you know, you can just hear like our parents' voices, like, why are you trying to be so American? What was the point of educating you if you're gonna throw it all away? And what is this acting, shacting? We raised you better than this. And obviously acting and flaunting one's body on stage, that's not what a dignified, good Asian woman from a good family who cares about the shame of her ancestors does. But lying to them was really hard work, so I did finally, after a year of the lying, came out to them. And I came out to them as an actor. And they were shocked. They were embarrassed, they were disgusted, they were mortified, they were full of shame. I was their walking shame. I was shaming all of our ancestors, because they couldn't believe what kind of daughter they'd raised. And of course, who did they blame for this? Themselves. I know, I feel the same way, but I still did it. And now, all of this coincided with another big event in my life. The first woman I was ever with in bed. A very gay woman. Let's call her Barb. She was a stage manager of a play I did in Chicago. So one night after a show, we hung out, we went for drinks, we ended up back at her place, and we definitely hooked up in bed. And yes, like it's fine. Maybe it wasn't the first time I'd been intimate with a woman. Maybe I'd hooked up with a woman, when I was on a little bit of MDMA, but it was like a friend. So it was is this friendship, is romance? Maybe we were just confusing our best friendship. But everyone knows what I'm talking about. But Barb was a portal. She was a portal for me for discovering this whole other world, discovering my own sexuality, and uncovering this previously dormant side of myself. But I did not have a gay community. I didn't know how to be gay. Well, guess what? That brings us to the second most important thing that I learned in law school. How to research. I went to gay bars. Great research. Every night I could, I met and hung out with only gay people. I watched the L Word to learn the secret lesbian language. You know what I'm talking about. Or maybe you don't. I scoured the internet for gay references. I read people's coming out stories. I devoured pictures of women's mouths kissing other women's mouths. And I looked at them and I wondered, is that what my mouth now will look like? I even had a friend who gave me a list of essential gay music I needed to listen to be a good gay. Woo, right? Everything from Dar Williams to the Indigo Girls to Tegan and Sarah to Queen Latifah. She's gay. Okay, and now, clearly, I'm here talking to y'all. I'm clearly out. Real out. You can't Google my name without seeing my face attached to probably another woman's face. How's my mom about my coming out? Well, it was hard. I told her over Gchat. It is a whole story about that, but I wrote a whole play about it, so we can talk about that later. But it's gotten a lot better. It's been a few years. And the reason I know it's gotten better, because let's be honest, the same way, here's one of the things I've reconciled. The same way that my Asian mother is never going to look at me and say, I totally get you. But the thing is now she's not trying to change me. And I get this because one day, it was right after marriage equality had passed. And I was hanging out with my mother and sister and cousin. And my mom said, oh my God, to my cousin, please tell her to get married. She has to get married. Why is she just doing all this nonsense? And so I'm like, married. I could get married now. So I looked at my mom you know what, Mom? Because my mom's like, oh, if you get married, I'll give you all my jewelry. Total bribe. And I was like, you know what, Mom? You're right. I think I will get married now. Now I will get married. And she's like, oh, Fawzia, you're making me so happy. And then suddenly she gets this look in her eyes and she's like, to a man. That's progress, right? Oh, as far as my father, I never came out to him. He died before I had the chance. But I think my dad would have said, Fawzia, you don't think about the consequences. He's right. Sometimes I haven't, and sometimes I still don't. But I have to say that that's exactly what got me here. What got me here to this moment, to having the life I do, to having a life where I'm no longer a practicing lawyer. I get to write about lawyering whenever I want. I get to write and create and tell stories for TV and film, and I have no shame about any of that. I did it the Asian way, too. I did what my Asian parents told me to do. I went to law school. Law school's the thing that made me gay. Thank you so much. Thank you.